Hi and welcome to another tutorial from Blender Insight, and this time I was thinking to do these cubes here because I think it's rather funny that we do something that looks like 3D but it should be 2D in 3D software. However, it's rather common for like floors, and sometimes it's a tile like this and sometimes it's just wood that you have in different colors. However, let's start right away. So what I can see now is that we have like squares that are diagonal, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have like a half and then 3.5, which means that these are offset compared to these. So we try to do this square first and then we do the offset, and I think we can then take the walls or the sides here later on. So we add a texture coordinate, so Shift A, input texture coordinate, and we can use the UV and we can scale it up to 4 since we use 4 here. So I go to UV, select scale, and to split it up in 4 portions or 4 parts I add a fraction after this. So I add fraction here. See now if we can find it. Here we have the fraction. And if I take that to the base color, you can now see that it's only 0 to 1, but we change this to 4, and that we get 4 different tiles on each direction. And now it's as usual that I would like to make this a little black point here in the center, because then we can get everything from that point outwards, so we can play with it in a more easy way compared to having it in the corner like this. So to make that happen, we then add subtract. So I can just take the Shift D to duplicate, and then I add a subtract, and we change this to 0.5. And then we get it up here, and next is to multiply, because now it's 0.5 negative to 0.5 positive, and I would like it to be -1 to +1, so we can just add a multiply. So multiply by 2 and multiply by 2, and now I would like to make this type of cube or a square here, and I think that is easiest done if we just separate right now. So separate X, Y, Z, and now we can then put it in here, but we get like lines like this, and then we get like lines like this. To get squares, I think we should use an absolute as well. So we can put in an absolute between here, because then we can make this to always be positive, and then also that we get edges the same on all directions, so we don't have a negative on one side and a positive on the other side. So if I add this to here and change it to an absolute, you can now see we get these, and then I can like add them together or something. So if I select converter and math and add the X and the Y together, you get something like this. But we can also just change this to greater than, because then we get this, and now we are really close to what we would like to have from the beginning. But what I can see right now is also that these squares here are squares, but these are shorter in height compared to the length, and we can fix that by just changing the multiply. So if I add 3 here, we then get this more in the same shape as we have here. So almost there. Now we have to do the offset. So every second one should have an offset of like a half of this square here, and that we have to add in the beginning here. So we use this scale, we add a floor. So when I add a floor, then it picks every integer here, so we get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but we don't get 0.5 or something like that, just the part without the decimal. And we after that use a modular. So I search for modular here, and then we have this, and I change it to 2, So we have it in, and now I would like to have a separate XYZ here, so I press separate XYZ, so we can change when or how much the offset should be. So I can add a multiply here. So I take this Y because I will do it every second row, but then I will move it in the X direction. So I take the Y first here, and then I just take multiply, and as I said, it should be like a half, so we can put it in here, but we also need it to put it in here somewhere. So if I move the texture coordinate, then these things, not to subtract, these things here, so we get some room, and then we add something here. So I can take the fraction and Shift D, and then I put in add, and to make this happen here we need to specify if it should be X, Y, and Z, so we need to have a combine X, Y, Z here. So Shift A, converter, and then we select combine X, Y, Z, and the only thing that we should add in this case is the X direction. And as soon as I did that, then you could see that it jumped a bit here. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have then 1, 2, 3, and a half in the beginning and a half in the end, exactly as we have here. The only difference right now is that we don't start in the same position here. We start a bit higher, I think, or lower, so we need to change that. And to move everything on this tile, then we should add it first before everything else. So we can just add or subtract and do the movement in this add here. So I can just copy this by pressing Shift D and put an add, and if I now change the Y here, you can see that it moves up or down. So the only thing now is how much should I change it with. And what I should do right now is, since it's 4, but we are using like this 2 times the scale, because we are subtracting and we multiply it again here, then I think we should divide it 1 more time. So what we should do is take that scale, so we take 1 divided by that scale, and then we divide it by 2 again, and then I think it will be correct. So to make everything easy to work with, I add an input here, so Shift A, input value. So if I write 4 here, then I can put that into the scale and it will be the same, and then I can use this value to change this as well. And then I need a combine XYZ to put it into the Y, so I can just take this one, Shift D, and move it here, and then I take it in here, and now I need to make some math here, and I will then use a divide, so Shift A, converter, math, and then change it to divide. And as I said, I take this value, but I use the double amount, so multiply by 2. See if we have it here, multiply by 2, and we divide it, take 1 and divide with this value and put that into the Y. And as soon as I do that, you can see that we get everything correct as here. And then we can change it, it will always be correct, but now we should not have decimals in here. So to be really secure, we add a floor here as well. So just write floor, put it in, and then we can use that to this one, and we can use it to the scale here. So now when I change, it will always be equal. And you can see now that whatever I change with, you get the math to be correct. So it always starts here in the bottom with a half and a half, exactly as we have here. So now the math works. So we have built the top layer right now, and now we need to create the walls in this as well. So we can put it to 4, because then we have everything exactly as the image here. And I think we also should take away the principal and just go to surface directly, so we get the same emission out, so it looks exactly the same. So now we have that, and the walls we can do in a similar fashion, but we should not use absolute in both directions. We should use it more in one direction, because this will be like mirrored both up and down, but this will only be mirrored. I get my vision really gets weird when I look at this, but yeah, these colored here, they go like this, up and down, and they are not mirrored up here, they are like parallel. So we should use absolute, but only in the X direction and not in the Y direction. So I do this separate here, so Shift D, but I take it before the absolute, so we have it in here. And then I think we should do like this, that I can just take this in here so we can see how it looks. And now when you see this, you see that we get white and black, which is perfect, because then we like already have the walls here, and in the Y direction we have these lines here. But we can then combine this in the X direction with the Y direction to find out where it breaks on these edges here. So we get like if it's less or greater than 0. So let's say that we take this here and say that this should be absolute. So I put in absolute here. Then we get it like this. So if we have it like that, then we have a gradient. And when we have a gradient, then we can use math to this one to make it happen in a good way. So what we should do right now is that we can combine this less than and greater than. So I can take, just move that up a bit, and I can copy this one and take, let's say, less than X here, and say that if it's less than 0, then we get a black, otherwise we get white. So black and white. So now we don't have gradient, but we can mix these things together here. So how we should do that is, let's see, so I need to think just a little bit how we should do it. But yes, we take the absolute, and we take, I think we can change this to greater than, and we can copy this, but we use less than here, and we take the multiply these together. So Shift A, converter, math, and we take a multiply here, and multiply here, and we take the absolute from the X and combine with the Y. Yes, now I feel that we are on the correct track here, because now you can see that we get these lines that are diagonal, which are diagonal in the same way as we have here. So we can use this formula here and combine it with the greater than that we have up here. And to change this so it's not black and white, then we can just take and subtract it with 0.5 or something. So Shift D, and then I can subtract, take this one, and we can then take like the maximum value. So if I take this Shift D and I take the maximum here, see if I can find it, and take that in here, then we have something that we can use, I think. Now I have to think again, but yes, because now I have, it should be the, let's see, so we get everything correct. Yes, it's correct. It's always hard to see here, but you can see this is black, and this is black, and this is like brown, and then this is like gray, and that works nice. And then we need something on the other side as well. So here we need it to continue, and I think we can do just the same thing again, but reversed, and then we get it to work. So the, let's say absolute should be there, but we change this to greater than, so we copy, and we change it to greater than. So put that in, and we take the absolute to exactly the same place, and we take the y to exactly the same place. So the only difference between this one and this one is that this is less than and this is greater than. Then we take this and copy, and we change that to less than instead. Still using the x exactly the same, and we multiply in the same way as we did before. So we take this one and we take that one, and we look at it just so we can see that yes, now we get the other direction. So it should be, as I think, by just subtracting with 0.5 again. So we take the multiply here. So now we have two almost identical. So we have multiply, multiply, subtract with 0.5, 0.5, and then we just do a maximum again. So Shift D, and we take this maximum and this maximum, and now we have something here. Yes, it looks like we have managed to do this in a perfect way, and the only thing left is to make this brownish color in these here. So to do that, we can just add like a color ramp. So Shift A, converter color ramp, put that in here, and add something in the middle and change this to constant. And now we should have white should be white, black should be black, but this grayish thing should be this color here. So then I just go here, click to get a new color, take this eyedropper, select this color here, and bam, we have exactly what we need. So here is the final result, and we do one final test to see that everything works by just changing the value here. And it looks marvelous. It works really nice. We can change it to whatever we want to, and it still works. So we managed to do this in a rather short amount of time, and that was nice. So just to go through it very quickly again. So what we have here now is this add is just to move it up and down, where we just put in the value, we divide the value, so we use the half of this value, so 1 divided by this value creates then the need we have for moving it up and down. Then we use the scale to get the amount of squares. We use this with floor and modular and the multiply of 0.5 to make the offset correct. So if I move this, you can see it moves on the side, and we would like to be half. So then we get everything on half here. And then we take this to separate it into 4 different parts. We move the center point, and then we use this multiply to change the ratio here between the height and the length. So if I change this, you can see it gets more like a cube, and here it shrinks more like this. So here you can see in what angle you are looking at this, and I think that 3 was the one that I used here. And then we create these white squares by just take greater than on the x and the y, and after that we needed to get these walls, and we got them almost directly by just using the x here, but to cut them in the correct way we needed to feel where it changes to be 0, and then we multiplied it. So if it was true that it was less than, that the y was less than 0, in this case multiply, then we got it white, otherwise we got black. So first we got it from this direction, and then we copied it, but we mirrored it, so we got it on the other direction. It perhaps easier to do in another way, but I think this worked, so I just keep it. And then we subtracted by 0.5 to don't, so we didn't mix it with the top value that was already white, but by subtracting we got two different gray colors that we could use, so then it was safe to use the maximum, because then we knew that we should keep the top and then add one wall, because here the wall was black and here it was gray, and then we added the other side of the wall here, and in the end we just colored it so we got the same color as we got here. So hopefully you learned something today as well, and I just do as usual, just say bye for now and see you later.